Liverpool are struggling. Despite winning the league last season and backing it up with new signings like Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz, Arne Slot's team have suffered some pretty big recent defeats, and despite a recent win against West Ham, pressure is mounting on the manager to get the club back to where it belongs. And today, I'll be stepping in to try and do that job for him, as I'm going to become the manager of Liverpool FC with the aim of dominating England again and winning the Champions League. But whilst this is only going to be one video, this rebuild's going to feel like two parts. The first job will be to integrate these new signings like Isak and get Liverpool back and firing at the top of the league. But the other issue we've got to sort, which will come in a few seasons' time, is the departure of some majorly influential players. He's obviously recently extended his deal, but in 2 seasons' time, Salah will be done at Liverpool, and on the exact same date, the contract of Virgil van Dijk will run out, and the same goes for Alisson as well. So big changes are coming, and we're going to have to try and future plan for this team not to have a drop off, to be consistently good, and then when those players go, to still hit the heights that we expect of Liverpool FC. So that's going to be my job today, and my first job is to fix the here and now. Now, as far as the Premier League goes, it shouldn't be the hardest job in the world to win the title. As much as Arne Slot is struggling this year, the first 11 has the most quality in the league according to Football Manager, which rates us as having 7-4 odds of winning the title, with City and Arsenal fairly close, but as being the clear favourites for that title push. And it's not like that squad is final either, because I have £40 million to spend and 200 grand of wage budget, although a lot of that will have to go towards sorting the issues we have at the club when it comes to contracts. Konate, his deal is up at the end of this season. Robertson, we need to analyse that deal, and there's some other players that I might be looking to settle on. The likes of Chiesa, Endo are people that I don't necessarily think are vital, all whilst trying to integrate some youth into the team like young Rio Nguoma, who I'm hoping will be a big part of our side as we go forward. So we're expected to win the title, we've got money to spend and players to sell, so I'm going to make some transfers and we'll see how this Liverpool side looks. Now, you'd think with all the money that Liverpool have spent in this window that I wouldn't spend anything, I'd keep the side the way that it is, but I've made some pretty big changes. Let's start with the outgoings, where 3 players have moved on, the first one being long-standing Liverpool player Joe Gomez, who I just feel like we've moved past a little bit. You can tell by the scout report, he's not actually considered that good for a Liverpool standard, and he's gone to Barcelona of all places. We offered him out, Barca came in for 15 million quid. I don't think that's a bad deal at all for a player that didn't play all that much last season, and that money goes right back into our accounts. But this window also saw Federico Chiesa depart, who whilst he has had his moments in a Liverpool shirt, you'd assume the club were planning to move him on in the window before obviously the tragic passing of Diego Jota. Now, whether that was the exact reason Chiesa stayed, I don't know, but they did need another attacking player, and he is still a Liverpool star. But for me, I just felt like we didn't really need him in this save, so I've moved him on. PSG came in, £18 million. Good luck to him over there, but it never worked out in a Liverpool shirt. And then arguably the weirdest transfer of all was Wataru Endo, who I offered out, and in came Real Madrid of all clubs, offering us a fee of 26 million, meaning Liverpool made pretty big profit on a man who last season for Slot was basically just a finisher in the game, would come on for the last few minutes to help them out, but is never really a crucial player in a Liverpool team. So I think we can take that money, and we had a lot more to reinvest. So I've brought in a couple of players I think will give us a boost. The first is a bit of a utility man that I think we've done really well in getting. He can cover right back, centre back and midfield. Now, Mark Guehi obviously is being linked to Liverpool, but in this save, it didn't make sense to move for him just yet. He's valued at 80 million with a year left on his deal, so we'll see how that looks come the end of the season. But we have gone and signed him from Barcelona for only 14 million quid. The former Man City man, I think, will be a great player to have, a Spanish international, handy in multiple positions, great in all areas, and a general good professional to have around the team who's only expected to be a fringe player. I think this is a good signing. And then my other signing was a left winger. I wanted someone comfortable with being a squad player that could really specialise in that left-hand side role of coming in and scoring a goal. So I've signed Moroccan winger Ousmane Sahraoui from Lille out in the French leagues. We've paid £15 million for him after a good season for Lille last time out. He's caught the eyes of our scouts. Never expected him to be world class. He's not a long-term solution either, but at 24 he'll help Gakpo in that area, and obviously then we can start bedding in Rio Nguoma as time goes on. Now, a lot's been said about Liverpool's tactical setup in recent time, but I am actually going to opt for a 4-2-3-1 shape. I think with the players they've bought, it is what they kind of suit, and if we currently look at our best 11, the game considers it to be this: Alisson in goal, as we all expect, with Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate and Frimpong as the best back line, but I think Conor Bradley and Kirkez will have something to say about those fullback areas. Gravenberch and McAllister are considered the best deep line players, with a front three of Salah, Gakpo, Wirtz behind Isak being supposedly our best setup, with Jobbersley, Curtis Jones and new signing Hugo Ekitike on the bench. There there is certainly some talent there. I do think Liverpool lack outside of that main 11 in terms of depth, but it's what we've got to go with in our first season. We didn't have a huge budget, as Liverpool had already spent most of it, as we already know, but we have brought in some players to help, and fingers crossed in season 1, we can get right back to where they were, winning the title and being the best side in England. And I can't lie, when I started making this video and doing this rebuild, I kind of thought this will be a pretty easy job. Arne Slot's making a meal of it, we can step in and win the title instantly. With the team we've got, it will be easy. Well, how wrong was I? Because our Liverpool team has finished in second place, but not just in second place to Spurs. We got 78 points, they won it with 81. We lost 6 games all season, drew 9, and whilst we were one of the best attacking outfits in the league, defensively we weren't exactly amazing, particularly when you see teams like Villa only conceded 30 odd goals and we're there conceding over 40, so there's a lot of work to be done, but my big issue here was our drop-off, and I think it is to do with the squad that we've got. Because we started so well, we were winning game after game, as you can see, consistently playing well, a bit of a blip in February, but we got all the way to April, at the top of the league, only to hit May, lose to Manchester United, and then draw to Chelsea, Villa and Brentford, meaning we chucked away the title and gave it up. But if you're looking at the fixtures closely, you'll see we did beat Bayern Munich in the semi-final of the Champions League, and despite Spurs topping us in the Premier League, we had a chance for revenge. The Champions League final, we were facing Spurs as well. And having not performed well in the other cups this season, this was our chance to really make amends, but Brennan Johnson scored after 35 minutes. And then in the second half, a set piece from Pedro Porro found Kevin Danzo at the back post to head home, and we eventually lost the game 2-0, so we went from being able to save our season to having Tottenham destroy it. Now yes, we won the Community Shield, but we got knocked out of the FA Cup by QPR, knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Lincoln City, and I think, to be honest, we're lucky we didn't get sacked because we threw away the title. I think that was the only thing really keeping us in the good books of the board because, yeah, I mean, losing to Spurs in 2 cases, the other cup competitions, it was a failure of a season and we're going to have to do something about it. Squad-wise, it was a bit interesting when it came to the best performers because the names that you might expect to rise to the top, they weren't really there because it was actually Wirtz and Isak, who have obviously struggled a lot this season in real life, who were our 2 best players. So clearly, good signings and our system suited them. We also got quite a bit out of Mo Salah, who wasn't at his mercurial best, but was still pretty damn good. But it's then when you get to the rest of the team, and you see the likes of Alisson not making a 7 rating, Virgil van Dijk being one of the worst rated players in terms of starters in the side, only worsened by Alexis McAllister, one of Liverpool's better players in the title-winning season. Hugo Ekitike did score 17, mainly off the bench, so it's hard to complain there. But a lot of those players we thought we'd rely on, particularly defensively, have really let us down. The attackers did the job. Maybe it's a tactical issue, I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to work on here, and thankfully we have got the budget to do it. £134 million to spend, nearly £500,000 of wages. They had a huge summer last time out, but I want to win this title, so I'm going to have a huge summer again, and we also need to start future planning for those big players leaving. Van Dijk, Salah, we need to get some stars in. Now with our Season 2 transfers, I wanted to bring in some big players to help fill the boots of those older players that are getting on. And I think we've done the trick, but you guys will have to be the judge in the comments. But before we see the transfers, if you have enjoyed so far, or if you do go on to enjoy the video, please smash that like button. It really helps me out. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, or if you think you have, just check. And if you haven't done it, please click that button on the road to 60k subs. And if you want to check out the save files for this video, and a bunch of other bonuses like giveaways of football shirts and whatnot, and just to support me as a creator, then Patreon is the best place to do it. I'll link it in the description. I'm trying to make it as valuable for you guys as I can, whilst also supporting me in return. So a big thank you to the people that are already over on the Patreon. It means a lot. But yeah, you can get the save files from all of these videos and have a go at this save yourself. But let's take a look at the players I bought in my own rendition of this Liverpool team, where we didn't actually make any major sales, but there was a big departure, where Andy Robertson, who for me, I think we maybe should have kept on, but his wage demands were quite high, so I decided to let him go. He has moved on. Now, he's a great left back, still has a lot of talent here, and could easily have played alongside Kirkej, but with his age and the fact he wanted so much in a long-term deal, I just couldn't get behind it, and it was time to let him go. Konate, on the other hand, despite recent performances in real life not being great, is still a great centre-back in FM, and we have secured him to a long-term deal until 2029. Another 3 years in a Liverpool shirt for Konate, so we got that one done at least. We lose Robertson, but keep Konate. I think in terms of player value, that made the most sense. We don't want to lose a player like that for free. But in terms of players coming through the door, there were three. The first one is a bit of a gamble, but it's trying to think about the future of that right wing position with Salah getting older. I've gone for Bruno Durdov, who's an 18-year-old Croatian prospect who's playing for Hajduk Split. We did sign him last season. He spent a bit more time at Hajduk Split before he joined us for only 3.8 million. He's played a game for us now as well. I don't necessarily think he'll replace Salah outright, but could at least be a squad level player to cover that area in some time. He's only 18 here, but already has great ability, and for 3 million, I think he's worth the punt. But with Robertson leaving and Kirkej playing that attacking wing-back spot on the left, I wanted someone else who could do that job at a similar level, so I've gone out and signed 21-year-old Valentin Barco, an Argentinian international who you might remember for his ginger hair playing for Brighton not too long ago. In real life though, he's moved to Strasbourg, and he's shining over there, being one of the best players in Liga, and in the game, not necessarily quite to that level, but still rated really highly. And we've paid a pretty high premium of 61 million. Now, in FM26, a lot of players are way more expensive than you'd expect, but he is a really high quality player, and I think this could be where he shines. Those mental attributes are exceptional for a 21-year-old. He can play midfield as well, and I think Barco could be a great signing for his long term, and it can help cover that issue left by Robertson. And then planning for the future without Van Dijk, I couldn't actually get Mark Guehi, who moved to Manchester City instead, but I've got, I think, a better option in Nico Schlotterbeck. The 26-year-old German centre-back international is arguably one of the best defenders at the club already, and we have signed him from Borussia Dortmund for 54 million. The former Freiburg man has shone in a Dortmund shirt, particularly last year in game where he got a 7.10 average match rating, way better than our defenders, mind you, so I think he's going to come in and do the job. A determined leader. He's also way younger than Van Dijk, so we can kind of start transitioning over from the Van Dijk era to hopefully the Schlotterbeck era, and fingers crossed that will all work out and we'll be able to win the league with these players added in. Now, I'll be honest, in most seasons of these rebuilds that I do, it's work our way up slowly but surely, get to the Premier League, get to Europe, win the Champions League, but here at Liverpool, I think we should be going out and trying to win everything straight away. I want to have as many trophies as possible by the end of this rebuild, and currently, we're odds on to win the Premier League again. Despite not winning it last year, Tottenham are all the way in 5th place, who did win it last season. If we don't bottle it this season, we should get this done. We were awful at the end of last season. If we didn't do that, we would have had a title. So our team is ready to go. And in our best 11, we're starting to see the transition as Eric Garcia is coming in as our best right back. We've got Kirkej coming in as the best left back. And give it a season, I think you'll be seeing Van Dijk out of there, Alisson and Salah too, because their contracts are all up at the end of this year, and the money they're on, the ages they're at. As part of the rebuild, I'm not going to renew any of them. We're going to let them go, and I'm going to have to try and replace them. So this is our last season with those superstars, and they would hope they can leave Liverpool in a good way, fingers crossed, by winning the trophy. Now, Salah, Van Dijk and Alisson are undoubtedly Liverpool legends at this point, and we were really hoping they could deliver us one final big moment to get us over the line. And in the Premier League, come the final few days, we needed some top performances. With 3 games to go, we managed to beat Wolves to stay on top, and in our penultimate game, we faced off against Manchester City at the Etihad, knowing that a win there would secure us the Premier League trophy. All the pressure was on, but thankfully our players didn't feel that pressure as Isaac scored early on. We then scored a well-worked second as Jeremy Frimpong burst forward from the defence into the area and tucked it past his former club's goalkeeper. Now, the ball nicked off Salah, and Salah ended up actually claiming that goal, but Frimpong made sure that he got his goal eventually, making it 3 and helping deliver Liverpool their first title with him in the team. But it did mean those legends of the club who are departing at the end of this season had managed to win that Premier League title, and all glory was restored again. But in the Champions League, it was a different story, because once again we were knocked out by Spurs, this time in the semi-final, and very annoyingly they actually went on to win the competition again. So 2 Champions League trophies for Spurs, none for us, and now we've got to try and rebuild a team without 3 of our most crucial players. So if anything, winning that UCL might be getting further away for us, because this season, I mean, Salah was at his best really. He was exceptional alongside Florian Wirtz as our best players. We did see Isak drop off a little bit in terms of performances, and Ekitike actually outscored him, but Van Dijk was great, Alisson was great, they played pretty much every single match, and now all 3 of them are going. Whether they'll retire or play for other clubs, I don't know, but we're going to need to replace them, and thankfully we've got the budget to do it. Already 170 million. When we let those contracts go, that wage budget is going to jump to about 1.5 mil. So this is really when we can get some stars in. I think we're about to see a new era of Liverpool. We managed to stabilise the club that Arne Slot had built, but now it's time for us to move on a new generation without some of those Liverpool greats, and hopefully we can find some new legends for the future. So, big players leaving meant we needed to spend big to replace them, and this might be one of my biggest transfer windows ever in an FM rebuild, as I've spent, in one window, over 250 million. Now, the reason we could do that was because of our budget, but also a couple of sales. One that I didn't plan in Connor Bradley, who Real Madrid actually inquired for, and we're offering a pretty hefty fee for a man that's only played 14 times for us in the 2 years we're here. 37 million is not a bad deal for someone like that. Yes, I know he's came through the academy at Liverpool and done quite well there, but I just didn't really think he was worth keeping hold of when he wasn't playing all that much. So we took 40 mil for him, near enough, and we put that right into our budget to sign more players. And it was a similar story for Cody Gakpo. Now, I wasn't planning to sell him. In fact, a lot of the squad were upset when we moved him on, and he does have a super high valuation, but he was moving into the later parts of his contract at the club, and at 28, he probably was never going to have the resale value of £67 million again. It might say he's worth 170 mil here. When that contract's a few years in and he's 30, Real Madrid won't get anywhere near that much money for him. Now, he has been really good for us in terms of consistent performances, but I did think we could improve on him. So Gakpo's left, combined with him and Bradley, that's over 100 million that we added to our budget already, and I spent big. Firstly, Alisson leaving meant we needed a new backup keeper, as Mamardashvili is going to become our number one for the year to see how he fares. James Trafford comes in as our backup. An England international, the young goalie has been signed from Man City for 9 million quid, where he didn't really play at all. Man City never used him once Donnarumma came in, and we get an English player, which obviously helps with homegrown, and he's happy to be a backup as well, so I think this is good news all round for us. At right back, Connor Bradley has been replaced by Guivaro Reed, who I don't actually know in real life, but in game here is one of the best young fullbacks in the world. He's now 21, so obviously started at 19, 3-star ability, 5-star potential, great attributes in all areas, and him and Frimpong are great options to have in that fullback position. £50 million from Feyenoord was a big fee, but he's been exceptional over there. He was ready for a big move. There were other big clubs interested, including PSG, so to sign him, I think is a pretty good deal for us. But we kept going. Another 50 million was spent on what is basically our Gakpo replacement in a sense, in Pablo Torre, a 24-year-old Spaniard who can play left wing but also through the middle. £54 million was the fee. Now, this is a player that Barcelona picked up a few years ago. They then let him go. He obviously shone at Mallorca, obviously had the ability that Barca had saw in him all that time back when he was playing for Racing de Santander. And whilst it is a big fee and it was a bit of a luxury signing, we had the budget to do it, and I thought, you know what, to boost our squad and to boost our options, he would be a great pickup with years left to get better too. But obviously, Mo Salah needed replacing in this window, and I think we've done just about as good as a job as we could have done, signing Rayan, a Brazilian international who started off as an 18-year-old at Vasco da Gama, was picked up by Barcelona, having done well over there, and then started 35 games for Barca already, scoring 19. This is only at age 20, by the way, so we've got the next Brazilian superstar, really. Alongside Estevao, it seems Rayan is the man. Physically amazing, great cutting in on that left foot, 6'1" as well, a great finisher. I'll go as far as saying could be an improvement on the Salah we just had getting towards the end of his career. I think Rayan could do a great job. He's already doing really well for Barca, clearly, so hopefully that will translate into a Liverpool shirt, potential to get better too. This is superstar quality that we might have just bought. And then our Van Dijk replacement, not quite, is Omar El Halali, who obviously Schlotterbeck was really my Van Dijk replacement, but we needed some extra depth in those centre-back areas that could also play right-back. I mean, kind of like what Joe Gomez was doing, to be honest, but now we've got it in a 23-year-old with huge potential and great ability. This is a Moroccan international who we have signed from Espanyol, where he spent his whole career and has done very well. 72 million was a lot, but our scouts really rated him, and again, he was another one that was going to move to a big club, if not Liverpool. We had to get in there first, and I think we've got a great new addition to the lineup who's going to benefit us massively. I mean, 6 foot, great physically, great defensively. I actually see him more as a centre-back than a right-back, but we'll see how it turns out. And whilst we're here for 5 seasons, this is basically where Rebuild 2 starts, because now we've got a totally different team really. Mamardashvili is our best goalkeeper, only Konate remains from our original defensive lineup. Kirkers obviously has took Robertson's place now. McAllister and Gravenberg still the best DMs, but then Rayan, Wirtz, Isak and Ekatike is a whole new look forward line. We're going to get both of them on the pitch at the same time, and we'll see how it turns out. I don't necessarily think this is how I play it, but it's what the game considers to be the best right now for this Liverpool team. And if we have a look at the season preview, a lot of clicks to get there, you will see that we're no longer predicted favourites. So clearly the game thinks we've had a big hit losing those guys. Now Man City are the clear favourites to win it, but we're going to try and prove them wrong. It's time for the second part of this rebuild now. 3 years to go, and hopefully we can get Liverpool back to being title winners. Maybe it will happen straight away, even though we've just lost those big players. Let's see how we do. So far in our Liverpool career, we finished as runners-up, and then we've won the title. We've now lost a bunch of players, and where do we end up again? Back in the runners-up position, kind of annoyingly, because we did really well actually. 79 points, 9 losses is quite a lot, but we didn't draw that many. Unfortunately, it's Arsenal that have won the league in the end with 84 points, 5 more than us. not quite what we wanted to see. What it means though is we're not totally miles away from being back to our best, but clearly losing those players has had a big impact, and that was across the competitions really, where once again we don't do great in the domestic cups. Both the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup we don't win, knocked out by Arsenal in the Carabao, and then the Champions League, English clubs have been our bane as we once again go out to an English club. Chelsea win it, but it was actually Manchester United that knocked us out in the quarterfinals, which is quite embarrassing for where we are as a Liverpool team. And because of that, there's nothing really specific to show you in terms of a game. I mean, there was no real mighty clash at the end of the season to win the title. The Champions League, we didn't go far, but there is at least something we can take from this season that gives me hope that we might have some of those big clashes coming up down the line, because Ryan might just be better than Salah. I'm saying it now, 51 appearances, 26 goals and 10 assists. On that right wing, he has made it feel like Salah never even disappeared. I mean, he is a global superstar for sure. We're going to have to give him a new contract. But him and Omar El Halali, the two players we picked up, have been our best, which is great to see. What's also nice to see is Bruno Derdov, whilst he hasn't played a lot, has made his way into the first team now and is making an impact. The same goes for Rio Ngumwoa, who is starting to develop a lot and is starting to make his name now Gakpo's gone in that first team lineup. He's playing more often, actually appeared 28 times this season altogether. Ekatike with 21, Isak with 20, 17 from Wirtz. Lots of goals come in, but lots of goals going in as well, which might be our issue at the minute defensively, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's clear to see the base of this squad, the core of it is working. We just need some extra players to get across in all those competitions, some extra ability, because I think we've got the first 11 and a couple of good subs, but outside of that, we do struggle a little bit. Now, recruitment-wise, we are going to be allowed to go again, £93 million. I'm kind of surprised we haven't been sacked at this point, because we haven't won all that much, but we've always been, at least in the conversation, we've been close. So fingers crossed they'll keep us in there for that reason. But with 2 seasons to go now, if I'm honest, I'd say this is a disappointment so far. I've only won 1 league title, not won any kind of European trophies despite getting to the Champions League final, no domestic cups. If we don't improve in our last 2 years, I think you lot are going to call this a failure, so I need to get these transfers right. Now, last season, obviously, we went pretty close in the league, and I said we just needed a bit of an upgrade in the general squad, and maybe not to make drastic changes, particularly after having the big transition of Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah going, Robertson as well, let's not forget about him, Gakpo, Bradley, they've all moved on, so I had to really get this window right, and instead of bringing in a bunch of players to affect the dynamics, I kind of stuck with the core group we had. There was a sale though, the first of our own players that we've bought to leave, as Osame Sarawi has left us. The Moroccan has gone to play for Roma for 9.5 mil, so we don't lose out all that much, but he only played 7 times in his whole career and was awful every time, so obviously I got that one wrong in the end, but it's not a huge financial loss at least. But I've started trying to plan for the future now with our transfers, and instead of having to buy, 23, 24-year-olds in their almost prime to replace our big players, I've tried to get in a lot of players that will go through our academy system, like 18-year-old Bahattin Yıldızhan, who's a German winger that we have picked up from Gladbach for only about £3 million. Again, probably isn't a here and now player, but in a few years, whether it's on Patreon when you guys take over the save, or by, say, Season 5, he might start to influence the first team, but we'll see. A bit of a punt, but £3 million, not a bad signing. And the same goes for Brazilian national Cal, who we have signed as an attacking midfielder. I've got a bit more hope in him that he will be a top player in no time, but we bought him in for a pretty cheap fee at this point from Flamengo, 13 million. It's not much of a gamble. I think he's obviously worth that money, and who knows, in time, maybe he'll be a starter for us. But again, trying to just improve the depth slowly without going out and buying these 50, 60 million pound players. Although saying that, I did sign one, and this is the first real first-team player that we got in this window, and the only one, in Chema Andres, who isn't one for the future, he is for the here and now, hence the £50 million fee from Stuttgart. The former Real Madrid man is a very good DM, and at 23 he's got years ahead of him. Now, Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai aren't exactly getting any younger, so I think Andres here, he can come in and start to learn from them and slowly transition the way we did with Schlotterbeck and Van Dijk, hopefully not feel as much of the impact. He's 6'3", a physical presence, mentally really strong as well. In front of that defence, I think he could be the out-and-out defensive midfielder we need to unlock everyone else, and I'm hoping the game is going to agree. If we go to the Premier League, I'd hope now we are predicted to finish top, that the season preview has us in 3rd place. We've dropped down. 4-1 odds of winning the title. Clearly not favourites anymore. Arsenal and City considered better. If you have a look at the best 11 in the league, do we have anyone in there? No, we don't. Other than Wirtz, actually, we do have Wirtz, but maybe we haven't done a good job here. I'm starting to question myself a little bit. I think we've built a nice team of young players that are going to grow together, but maybe losing those players was too much. But we'll see in Season 4 if we can come out, prove everyone wrong, and win that title. I've got to hope for it, else our job might be on the line, or at least the comments are going to flame me after this video. And I said this season our Liverpool team needed a big result and to get some trophies in so we can actually feel like a success. But we failed again. In fact, we've got a lot worse. 73 points. Third place, exactly as predicted. Man City win the league, Arsenal come second. Maybe the game knew after all. We were 11 points short in the end of Man City. I was really hoping my signings would work, but clearly not. But thankfully, we had a chance to redeem it all. Once again, a crack at the Champions League. We had made it to the Champions League final, and if we could just win that one game, this whole rebuild would be worth it. The only issue is we were facing off against Barcelona. And it was such a closely contested affair until the 90th minute with 5 minutes added on when Isak stepped up from the penalty spot. As the minutes ticked away, he tucked it in and we were going to win the UCL. Well, that is if it wasn't for the corruption of the Champions League. There's 5 minutes added on, you can see at the top. It's a 97th minute, close to the 98th. That penalty did not take that long. We celebrated for maybe 30 seconds, but they let the game carry on until eventually Rafinha got into the box. He pulled it back to Hector Fort. You can see the time is still going, and eventually they score after a double deflection. What a joke. Now that then meant that we went into extra time, and in that extra time period, Rafinha, the guy who shouldn't have been on the pitch and shouldn't have scored the goal, scored a brilliant free kick. That won Barcelona the Champions League, and we lost in the final. I mean, that is corruption at the biggest level. The game should have been up 3 minutes before Rafinha scored, and it meant we came out empty-handed again, but this one isn't my fault. And just like that, it is another season of disappointment. We've got one season left, and I think even if we won the treble at this point, would that be a failure? Liverpool fans, I'm asking you, if your manager came in 5 years, told you you'd win one Premier League, would that be enough with the squad you've got? I don't think it would be. We need to step it up in Season 2. We need literally a treble if we're going to make this worthwhile, especially a Champions League. But I mean, this season, Rayan, 31 goals, 11 assists in only 37 appearances. If he wasn't injured, we probably would have won that game. He went off against Barcelona, and that was a big miss for us against his former club. Isak, Ekitike, Wirtz, all doing amazing. It's really the defence where we're falling apart. Ngumwoa, though, mind you, he is really starting to come along. He is a top player. Chema Andres came in and did a really good job, so that signing was worthwhile. Oh, it's just so annoying. I feel like we're so close every year, but not quite there. So I'm going to have to use that £100 million budget. I'm going to have to get it really right now. I need to sign someone who's going to be the superstar to take us to another level, because this just isn't good enough. I'm worse than Arne Slot right now. So it was the last window now as Liverpool manager, and I actually think I've done a pretty good job transfer-wise, but I want to give myself some credit here, because I realise doing them transfers, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, because yes, this hasn't been my best rebuild, but I've literally had to try and replace 3 of the best players in Liverpool history. And that is not an easy job, especially after we got to the point where the team was winning the league. We've obviously done a great job, and then they departed. They've been missed so much, and I wonder how Liverpool are going to cope in real life. But maybe some of these players that I've signed might be able to help them. But again, as usual, we need to start with the departures, where we made some money selling Stefan Bajcetic. He has gone to play for Saudi Arabian side Al Khalij. 12.5 mil for a guy that barely played for us. He obviously had that promise when he first debuted for Liverpool, but as you can tell, not quite Liverpool quality anymore. Actually, quite a good deal was for Jadon Danns, a player that I've been trying to move on for a while because he's never going to be good enough for Liverpool, but he is actually quite a good Premier League player. He had a move to Forest lined up last season, but he pulled the plug on that himself and said he didn't want to join, but now he has gone to Fulham. 20 million quid, that was added to our bank, and good luck to him. But arguably the biggest first team player that we have lost this window is Frimpong, who returns to Man City. Having scored the goals against them last time to win that Premier League trophy, he now moves back to them for 43 million quid. Money on what Liverpool paid for him, but as you can see, with Omar El Hilali coming in last season, he wasn't playing at all. 9 appearances off the bench, not exactly spectacular. So Frimpong's out, and it meant we had some new players to bring in. And the 2 players I brought in were actually 2 of the best young players in the season when Liverpool won the league under Arne Slot. So maybe we should have signed these straight away, and then the transition between those older players getting on wouldn't have been so hard. But I have brought in Dean Huijsen, who of course went to Real Madrid. The Spanish international hasn't played for them at all in this Football Manager world, never seems to be honest. So their £50 million looked like a waste of money, although to get him back off of them, we still had to pay 50 million, so they got all their money back. But we get a centre back with potential, who's happy to be a squad player, but also can just help us in those areas. Being good with both feet as well means he can cover both positions, and I think with the attributes he's got, he should be a nice upgrade for our team. And the same goes for our midfield with Adam Wharton. Again, we're trying to move on from those older players like McAllister and Jobslai, who have only got older in this save. So we brought in a prime Adam Wharton, really, or heading into his prime at 25. A regular England international. He's got great attributes all round and will be the passing metronome in the team, likely alongside the DM that we bought last season. I think them 2 will complement each other quite well. One being the tough tackler, one being the passer. Wharton's got a bit more flair about him as well, the way that he plays. So I'm very happy to have him in the side. And again, not a huge fee from Palace, 57 million. It's a lot, but for Adam Wharton, I don't think it's a huge bit of money. And as we head into our 5th and final season, this is the team that we're left with here at Liverpool. It's very much changed from what we inherited limited. Mamardashvili is in goal, Kanate and Kirkez are at the back with Schlotterbeck and El Halali. We then have McAllister and Wharton with a front four of Isak, Ekatike, Wirtz and Ryan, who I actually think is probably the best of the lot outside of Wirtz, who's been exceptional in this save so far. But our team's ready to go. In terms of a final prediction, after all of this, obviously we started off as title favourites, lots changed in that time. We're now predicted third again, 4-1 odds. Last season, that was accurate. We finished in third place. This year, I don't want it to go the same way. I'm really hoping in our final season, we can get some silverware to feel good about ourselves. And in our final year as Liverpool boss, we had our best season yet in the league. We managed to achieve 90 points, but despite that, going into our last game of the season, even if we won it, there was a chance we wouldn't win the title because Arsenal were neck and neck with us and they had to lose their match for us to stand a chance. In front of the fans at Anfield, we faced off against Nottingham Forest, knowing that we had to do our job of getting a win to have any chance of securing this title, and very early on we showed no nerves. Isak with a great shot past the goalkeeper, and that was one of what was eventually 3 goals in what would be a 3-0 win. We did our part. Meanwhile, our rivals Arsenal faced off away to Fulham, and they went 1-0 down very early on actually, only 14 minutes. Exactly as we scored our first, they conceded, and Fulham would eventually go 3-0 up by half time in that game, and the title was basically ours. Or so you would think, but this rebuild has been anything but simple. And once again, we fall at the final hurdle, outside of our control really. 93 points we got. Fulham were 3-0 up at half time. They eventually conceded 3. Arsenal got the draw. And if you have a look at the Premier League table, Arsenal have won it. And not just won it, they won it on goal difference by a pretty big margin, yes. But we scored 102 goals. 102. Yes, we conceded 50, which is obviously quite bad, but it is just a style of play we were playing. But yeah, that is just so unfortunate. The same amount of wins as Arsenal, the same amount of draws. Fulham had it in the bag and let it go in the last few minutes. Honestly, I've never been more annoyed at the club. So that meant we didn't win the Premier League title. We won it once in the 5 years we were here, despite being runners-up every year but one. It's been a really tough job being Liverpool manager, and this is probably the most unfortunate rebuild I've ever had. But we had one chance to make up for everything with a Champions League final on the horizon. If we could win this, at least we'd have something to top off the rebuild with. Now, we've been runners-up in the Champions League twice as manager against English clubs in the past, and now we're facing off against Manchester City for the Champions League final. The age-old rivalry from the Klopp and Pep era was back, and we got off to a great start with Isak scoring, and we finally had a chance for the UCL. Now, cup competitions haven't been kind to us in this rebuild. We haven't won a single domestic cup at all, but we managed to go 2-0 up in the Champions League later on as Ryan scored, and for once, we managed to see it out, and finally, we went and won the Champions League. We should have had back-to-back Champions League if it wasn't for the corruption of Barcelona. We could easily have won another 2 or 3 Premier League titles, but we end up as Champions League winners 2-0 against Manchester City, and it's something at least. Now, we've dealt with so many different issues during the course of this rebuild, but I'm glad we've got over the line in the end, and there's some top performers that have got us there. I mean, Hugo Ekatike, already a Liverpool player, was exceptional in this season. Ryan as well. I mean, Florian Wirtz and Isak also doing great. Even Szoboszlai, we've been trying to move on from as he's got older, has really shone in this most recent season, so credit to him. A lot of our transfers working out, but I guess this one's up to you guys. Was this a success or not? I would say by the end of it, yes. I mean, we've got a Premier League competing side that's won the Champions League. We've always been up there. Compared to recent times for Liverpool this season, it's much better than that, but I don't know. We should have won a few more trophies. I think we've been very hard done by here. Maybe my unluckiest rebuild yet, but let me know down below. Let me know who you want to see next, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.